Welcome to Chapter 15, the chapter on semicolons and colons. Uh, Colons and semicolons are not used quite as much as commas in sentences, but they do have an important place, and correctly using them will make you look like a more polished writer. Semicolons and colons are like timing signals. They make readers pause. If you use them correctly, they can make alert readers to slow down and look for special relationships to follow. So we're going to study the common uses of semicolons first and then colons. First of all, we want to talk about using semicolons correctly in punctuating compound sentences, and then using them when necessary to separate items in a series. And we've touched this briefly in some of the other chapters, so this will look familiar. Okay, so here's our topics again. Okay, first of all, independent clauses separated by conjunctive adverbs. Remember when the conjunctive adverb is 2 or more syllables, we use a comma after it, but we use a semicolon first. So she needed fast answers, therefore she checked the web. Here's our 2 independent clauses. And then here's our conjunctive adverb separating the 2. Okay, she found what she needed. Then she added the data to her report. Okay, so here is our first independent clause. She found what she needed. And our other one, she added the data to her report. Here's our conjunctive adverb, and so we need to use our semicolon, but we don't put a comma after then because it's only 1 syllable. Okay, also we use them with independent clauses without conjunctive adverbs or coordinating conjunctions. Okay, so if we have 2 independent clauses here, common stock carries voting rights, preferred stock does not carry in such rights. We have our 2 independent clauses. We don't really have to have an adverb or a conjunction, a conjunctive adverb or a conjunction here. We can just separate it with a semicolon. So this is another way we can use the semicolon, separating 2 independent clauses. What other punctuation mark could be used instead of a semicolon? And what other changes would be necessary? Well, we could use a period at the end of the first independent clause and then capitalize the first of the word in the second independent clause. So we could say common stock carries rights and then put our period in there and then to have another sentence. That's another way we could fix that previous sentence we had. Or we could use a comma followed by the coordinating conjunction to join the 2 independent clauses. So instead of using that semicolon, we could put a comma after rights and then put the coordinating conjunction but. All 3 of those ways are correct. It's just the way you want your sentence to read or how you want it to appear. Okay, we also use them for series containing internal commas or complete thoughts. Okay, so some of the dignitaries attending are Karen Howie, NMC. So here we have our comma and our semicolons because we have an internal comma here. Barbara Malum, here's a comma, and here's her, I'm assuming this is a college. So we have this, we have internal commas, so we use semicolons to separate them, the series. And then we have the same thing here. So this sentence contains internal commas. So we use, instead of using a comma to separate the series of people, we use semicolons. All right, the union shop recognizes compulsory union membership of all employees. The closed shop requires that all new employees must be members of the union before hiring, and the open shop allows either status. Okay, so here's another series, but these are complete thoughts or complete independent clauses. So we're going to separate the series with semicolons instead of commas, since they are complete thoughts. Because the union shop recognizes compulsory union membership of all employees is actually a whole sentence. The closed shop requires that all new employees must be members of the union before hiring is a complete sentence, and the open shop allows either status is a complete sentence. So when we have this case that these are complete thoughts, we use semicolons instead of commas. Okay, we're going to talk about this punctuation here. Many employers research job applicants online, therefore job seekers should clean up digital dirt. This is a very true statement. For those of you who have Facebook accounts and all that, if you're looking for a job, make sure you clean up your Facebook and any other social networking sites. Okay, back to the semicolons and semicolons. Okay, many employers research job applicants online. That's a complete independent clause. Therefore, okay, so there's our conjunctive adverb. Job seekers should clean up digital dirt is another independent clause. So we're going to separate these with a semicolon for the conjunctive adverb and then put a comma after it because it's more than two syllables, or it's more than one syllable. Therefore. Okay, some applicants use Facebook wisely. They set up pages specifically for employers to see. Okay, so this is a comma splice. We can't have that there. So we could make this into a sentence by putting a period and then start another sentence. Or we could put a semicolon in here to separate these two independent clauses. Or we could, if we had the comma, we could put and then have a use a coordinating conjunction like and or one of the fan boys and have the sentence written that way. They're suggesting the semicolon, but remember the section right before that we talked about the 3 ways to fix these. Okay, Brandon will visit Rome, Italy, Geneva, Switzerland, and Munich, Germany this fall. Well, we have internal commas here, so we're probably going to need to put a semicolon here and here to separate the series, because these are all a series of cities and countries. Oh, I forgot the comma for Germany too, because that is another geographical area. Here's the city and the country, so I need to put the comma after it. His passport has expired, thus he needs to apply for a new one immediately. Well, since we have this thus here, and we have his passport has expired, which is an independent clause, he needs to apply for a new one immediately as an independent clause. I believe we're going to need a semicolon here, but we don't need a comma after this. Okay, let's try another. Okay, we're going to go on. We're going to learn the proper and improper use of colons to introduce listed items and correctly use colons to introduce quotations and explanatory sentences. Okay. Formally listed items. You'll notice that success depends on the following, and then there's a list following it. So we put a colon here to denote that we're going to have a list of items after it. We want to be sure that the statement introducing the list is a complete independent clause. The next example is an incomplete. The colors we have are, that's not a complete thought, so we shouldn't use anything here. We should say just the colors we have are red, yellow, and blue with no colon here. Okay, if we have a complete thought, the colors we have are the following. That's a complete thought, so we do use the colon. We don't use a colon in these circumstances. When the list follows a verb, when the list follows a preposition, or when another sentence falls between the introductory statement and the list. Okay. Candidates for the president are, so this one has a verb, so we don't use a colon after here. No colon. Okay. Budget requests have been received from, here's our preposition, so you don't use a colon after that. And budget requests have not been received from the following departments. Contact them at once. We have a sentence that falls between the sentence and the list, so we don't use a colon here. We use a colon to introduce long one-sentence quotations and quotations of 2 or more sentences. Okay, Ted Turner said, when you lose small businesses, you lose big ideas. So we're introducing a long one-sentence quotation or of 2 or more sentences. So here we have a long quotation. So we use the colon here instead of the comma. Remember the comma, it's a short quotation. So a colon is for a long quotation. Okay, for explanatory sentences, we use a colon to separate 2 independent clauses if the second explains the first, or explains, illustrates, or supplements. Mr. Cohen had only one goal. He wanted to offer the best product at the lowest possible price. Okay, so these are 2 independent clauses here. Mr. Cohen had only one goal, and he wanted to offer the best product at the lowest possible price is our other one. This one is explaining his goal here. His goal, and this is the explanation of it. So we use a colon here. Okay, let's try this. Effective graphics require consistency in these 3 elements: colors, shapes, and logos. We probably need a semicolon or a colon here, sorry. And I forgot to put the other comma here. Because remember, this is our coordinating conjunction, and shapes and logos aren't one item, so we need to separate them, the comma. Effective graphics require consistency in colors, shapes, and logos. Okay, this is a preposition, so we don't need a colon there. But I forgot to put the comma over here. Good grief. Okay. It's because I'm looking for colons instead of commas. So we want to make sure shapes and logos are not one item, so we need to separate them. They're 2 different things. Okay, our company has one main goal to go to the public by the end of the year. We're going to put a comma here because these are 2 independent clauses. And this one explains this one. Okay, we're out of time, so go to part 2 here in the next segment.